The story begins with a spaceship falling from space at an extremely high speed, and then we see the spaceship crash into a lake. After this, two human-like people wearing spacesuits came out of the spaceship. One man dragged his unconscious companion out and then fell asleep himself, after which he began to see glimpses of the life he had spent on his home planet. Sometime later, when he opened his eyes, he saw a horrific wound on his unconscious companion's chest, which had caused his death. Just then, he heard a voice from his computer in the lake. He immediately pulled the computer out and tried to get information about this place from it. Then he tried to find the location of the other spaceships, but the computer told him that there were no other spaceships nearby at the moment. Now he became a little disappointed. Anyway, he then connected a wire from the computer to his eye, after which all the history of this planet, its people, animals, languages, and all information about their way of life was transferred into his mind. After this, he took out his gun and began to practice his aim. Then in the evening, he dug a grave for his dead companion and buried him. Now this man's mission was to get out of this dense forest safely, with only his gun, and return to his planet. After walking for a long time, he came across the massive corpse of a whale and understood that this was not the work of a human. He saw that he had reached a village, but the entire village was completely devastated by a terrible disaster. Just then, he realized that someone was watching him, and he immediately fled. But soon, a horseman started chasing him. He attacked the man and knocked him unconscious, and his gun also fell into the river. Now this man was taken as a prisoner in an unconscious state to a Viking village, which was surrounded by wooden walls on all sides. After this, we see the king of this village, Hrothgar, practicing swordsmanship with his daughter, Freya. During this, Freya told her father that she would never marry Wulfric. Just then, Freya was accidentally injured on her shoulder, so the king bandaged her wound. Wulfric arrived there, but hearing his strange talk, Freya did not stay there long and went outside. Anyway, Wulfric then informed the king that a terrible attack had occurred on a nearby village. The entire village was stained with blood, but they did not find a single body there. After that, they captured a man, but he did not seem to be from this area. Then we see that the man was made to stand as a prisoner in front of the whole village, and everyone was laughing and making a spectacle of it. Anyway, Wulfric then dragged the man into a room for questioning. Wulfric asked for his name, and the man said his name was Canaan. Canaan lied to him, saying that he had come here from the northern region to hunt dragons. But no one believed his story because they thought Canaan was behind the destruction of the nearby village. Now Canaan tried to escape from there, but the Vikings were very strong. Later, when he was imprisoned alone, he tried to break his chains with a very hot iron rod, but just then Freya arrived. On the other hand, the king asked Wulfric about Canaan, but Wulfric said that no significant information had been found so far. Then the king told him to find Gunnar, the king of the destroyed village, so that he could explain to him that they had no hand in the attack on his village. Wulfric was not at all agreeable to this because Gunnar had murdered his father, so he hated Gunnar. The king explained to him that it was all due to his father's negligence. Gunnar was not at fault. Meanwhile, Freya and Canaan were together, and Freya asked him if he was the one who had carried out the attack on the nearby village. But Canaan flatly denied it. After this, he suddenly freed himself, attacked Freya and the guard, defeated them, and fled from there. Now, in the middle of the night, Canaan was running, but suddenly an alarm for an enemy attack was sounded. Soon, their village army entered the battlefield because they thought Gunnar was going to attack their village. But when they got outside, they were all surprised because there was no one there. They realized that their enemy was not a person, but a very ferocious beast that had already entered the village and started killing people. Now Canaan also ran after this beast. He went in front of the beast and called it Morwen, and then it is revealed that he had come to hunt this very dragon. Now Canaan was about to attack it when at the last moment, the soldiers caught him again and tied him to a stone. Then he remembered his home planet again, when the Morwen army had attacked their planet, and Canaan could not save his people. Anyway, the next day we see that a poor little boy gave Canaan a small part of his bread. On the other hand, the villagers were trying to find out which terrible beast had attacked them last night. Then they brought Canaan before the king, and the king asked Canaan about this dragon. Then Canaan told them that this dragon's name is Morwen, and it had also attacked the people of Canaan's planet. Morwens often attract their prey with light and then kill them brutally. The reality was that the Morwen had the power of invisibility and had hidden in Canaan's spaceship to get here, and since then it had been causing destruction all around. Hearing this, the villagers were ready to hang Canaan because he was the reason such a great calamity had come to Earth. But the king somehow stopped them. Then Canaan understood that the Vikings would surely go to hunt the Morwen to protect their people, so he requested the king to let him go with them to catch the Morwen. The king agreed to this, and as soon as they went out, Freya suddenly punched him to take revenge for last night. After this, they all went out of the village to find the Morwen. On the way, the king started talking to Canaan. He said that if they didn't stop the Morwen now, the same thing would happen here as happened on Canaan's planet. Then Wulfric informed everyone that many bodies had been found nearby. He said that they should form small groups and search for the Morwen in different directions. But Canaan said that it was better for everyone to stay together. But the king did not agree, and said that pairs of 2 people would go in different directions. When the king and a general named Boromir went on their way, a severed horse's head suddenly fell in front of them from above. Meanwhile, other soldiers found rotten corpses outside a cave, and then a horrific scene appeared before them. They heard someone screaming from the cave, so the rest of the army also arrived there, and they all immediately entered the cave, where they came face to face with a ferocious bear. The whole cave was filled with a pile of corpses. These were the people from the destroyed village, so everyone thought this bear must be behind everything. They attacked the bear, and in the end, Canaan finished it off with his sword. Then, pleased with Canaan's bravery, the king released him from his captivity. After this, in the evening, the whole village celebrated the death of the bear. Canaan also joined this celebration, wearing clothes like the common villagers. As soon as they saw him, everyone welcomed him with open arms, and the king sat him down and fed him. Just then, the same poor boy who had given Canaan a piece of his bread came before him. To repay his kindness, Canaan gave him his sword as a gift. Then he asked the boy's name, and he said his name was Eric, and his parents had died in a battle, so now all the villagers took care of him together. A little later, Wulfric challenged Canaan in a game. Some soldiers sat with shields on their heads, and the players had to walk on the shields on their heads to reach the end. Poor Canaan stumbled and fell on Boromir several times, but Wulfric did not make fun of him. Instead, he gave him a hand and helped him up. Finally, after the celebration was over, Canaan came out of the hall, and Freya came to meet him. She thanked Canaan because he had supported her father on the mission in the forest, but Canaan said that the truth is that the animal that takes people's lives is the Morwen, not some bear, and it can come back at any time. Just then, we see that Gunnar's army had attacked their village. There was fierce sword fighting on both sides, in which Canaan and Freya also participated, and they killed many enemies. Meanwhile, Gunnar had cornered the king and was about to finish him off when Canaan saved the king's life at the last moment. Now, before a fierce battle could take place between Canaan and Gunnar, Gunnar's soldiers pulled him back because they knew that Gunnar would not stand a chance against Canaan. Before leaving, Gunnar cursed the king and blamed him for the destruction of his village. After the fight was over, Freya told Canaan everything about Gunnar. Many years ago, when Wulfric's father was the king, he had planned to gather all the nearby villages and attack Francia. But at that time, Gunnar did not arrive there at the last moment, which is why he was considered a traitor. and since then, enmity began between the two villages. After this, we see that Gunnar and his army were camped in the forest. It was revealed that they had come today to attack Wulfric and take revenge for years ago. But as a soldier went some distance away to relieve himself, the Morwen suddenly came out of the lake and killed the soldier brutally. Gunnar and his army thought that Wulfric was behind this attack. In a few moments, the Morwen killed several soldiers, and in the end, only Gunnar stood before it. He decided to face the Morwen without caring for his life. Just then, we see that some of Gunnar's companions had fled from the Morwen and come to the other village, and they were begging them to open the gate to save their lives. When Wulfric saw Gunnar's men in the village again, he thought it must be some trick of theirs, so he ordered his soldiers to attack. But in a few moments, Gunnar came running there. He had somehow managed to escape from the Morwen for a moment. He too had come with the intention of asking for help from the neighboring village. But Wulfric's soldiers continuously shot arrows and killed all of Gunnar's companions. In the end, only Gunnar was left alive, so Canaan somehow stopped the soldiers and had the village gates opened so that Gunnar could come inside. As soon as Gunnar entered, Wulfric was ready to take his life. But then everyone's attention was drawn to a glowing blue light in the forest, and the light was brutally tearing apart and eating a man. In a few moments, the blue light turned red, revealing the Morwen's true, horrific form to everyone, and it ran into the forest. Now everyone understood that it was the Morwen, not a bear, behind these deadly attacks. After this, in the great hall, the king gathered everyone, where Gunnar and Wulfric were still standing against each other. Gunnar said that when he struck the Morwen with his sword, it felt as if he was hitting a stone wall. Then Kynon explained that it is better to try to kill the Morwen in an open area, so they would have to set a trap to catch the Morwen. But Wulfric did not agree to this. He said that Canaan is not a man of their world, so his word should not be taken. Then Canaan said angrily, "You don't have a brain in your head. All your guesses are wrong. First you said a bear attacked, then you got this poor Gunnar's entire army killed for no reason." Suddenly, the two of them started fighting, but the king separated them. Then he agreed with Canaan and said that to catch the Morwen, they would do as he says. Then the next day, people started the work of building a trap outside the village. They dug a pit several meters deep and covered it from the outside so that it looked like a normal hut. After that, they erected several poles in the pit and filled it completely with oil. Actually, this was Canaan's plan to bring the Morwen into this pit and burn it to ashes. Finally, after all the work was finished, the king gave Canaan a job there, and with that, Canaan also became a part of their village. After this, we see that one of the soldiers who was attacked by the Morwen last night opened his eyes and saw that he was surrounded by corpses. But at that moment, the Morwen killed him brutally as well. Meanwhile, Canaan and Freya were sitting in his hut drinking soup when Canaan revealed the true story of his life. He said that the people of his planet want to rule the entire universe. When they reached the Morwen's planet to conquer it, they set off huge bomb blasts and wiped out their entire species. Then they hunted the remaining Morwens. Canaan was also a part of this army, and in exchange for going on this dangerous mission, his family was to be given a good place to live. Finally, after conquering the Morwen's planet, Canaan now had to go on the next mission. Then he found out that one Morwen had survived. It had hidden in the vent of Canaan's spaceship, and this was the Morwen that had come to Earth with Canaan and was now brutally killing people here. Canaan felt that he himself was responsible for all this, but Freya consoled him, saying that it was not his fault. Then she gave Canaan her ancestral sword, so that he could use it to destroy the Morwen and protect the people of Earth. Tonight, with Gunnar's help, they were going to trap the Morwen. The soldiers opened the village gates, and then Wulfric and Canaan went out and waited for the Morwen to arrive. They couldn't see much in the dark, so Canaan threw a burning torch towards the forest, And then they saw that the Morwen was standing right in front of them. Suddenly, a priest stood in front of it and told the Morwen to return in the name of God. But the Morwen beheaded him with a single blow. Seeing this, Wulfric and Canaan immediately fled, so that the Morwen would follow them and fall into the trap. Finally, their plan succeeded, and the Morwen fell into the pit. But unfortunately, Wulfric also slipped and fell into the pit. Suddenly, the outer doors also closed, trapping Wulfric inside. The marksman soldiers were about to shoot a flaming arrow into the pit to cause an explosion when, at the last moment, Canaan pulled Wulfric out through a small opening. At that moment, a massive explosion occurred in the pit, which left everyone stunned. Just then, we see a new Morwen emerge from behind a group of women. It was probably the baby of the big Morwen. Seeing it, chaos erupted all around, but Freya decided to face it herself. Soon her father came to help her, but the Morwen knocked him down with a single blow. At that moment, the Morwen from the pit also jumped out, burning, and attacked the common people in a great rage. Wulfric and Kynan tried to fight it together, but they were no match for it. Then Gunnar came to their aid, but the Morwen beheaded him with a single strike of its tail and fled back towards the forest. At that moment, Eric informed Kynan that there was another Morwen, which Freya was facing alone. Kynan immediately ran to help her, but when he got there, he saw Freya crying, with her father's dead body in her lap. Then Kynan gave her courage. The next day, we see all the villagers leaving the village out of fear of the Morwen. Eric told Kynan that he wanted to stay in the village with him, but Kynan explained to him that this area was no longer safe, so he should go with the rest of the villagers in the boat. He promised Eric that they would surely meet again. Then Kynan went to Wulfric. After the king's death, Wulfric was now the next king, but he was very disappointed seeing the destruction all around. Then Kynan boosted his morale, saying that they would finish off the Morwen together, so that the villagers could live happily once again. Then Kynan entrusted Boromir with the task of making new weapons. After that, he went with Freya and Wulfric to the lake where his spaceship had crashed, and then, going into the depths of the water, he found things he needed. During this, he suddenly saw a Morwen in the lake, so he immediately came out of the water. But the boat they had come in was completely broken. Wulfric was lying unconscious on it, and there was no sign of Freya. Meanwhile, Boromir was busy making a new spear. Soon Canaan arrived there, took the spear from him, and entered a well that led to a secret underground passage. His companions also followed him, and they slowly moved forward. On the other hand, Freya opened her eyes in a cave and was terrified because she was lying in a pile of corpses. As soon as she tried to escape from there, the Morwen appeared in front of her. But then it caught a whiff of Canaan and his companions approaching and left Freya to find them. Meanwhile, Canaan and his companions had entered the cave, where there was a pit full of boiling lava in front of them. Soon, the Morwen attacked them. Then Canaan and his companions also fought it without caring for their own lives. They killed the smaller Morwen, but during this, the other Morwen killed Boromir. Meanwhile, Freya also got up, and a wounded Morwen appeared in front of her. It could no longer see and was trying to find Freya only through sound. Meanwhile, Canaan and Wulfric were calling to Freya from the other side of the wall. Hearing their voice, the Morwen attacked that spot, and Freya jumped at the last moment to save her life. Now a small hole had been made in the wall by the attack, and Freya had to go over it to reach Kynan. But this hole was very small, so Kynan gave Freya the spear, and Freya killed the Morwen with a powerful blow. Finally, Freya and Canaan were together again. But instead of being happy, they were looking at the pile of corpses in the cave, which made their blood run cold. Just then, they heard the Morwen approaching, and they ran. And then the Morwen came there, and saw that its child was dead, so it became filled with rage and thirsty for the blood of Canaan and his companions. Meanwhile, Wulfric, Canaan, and Freya ran through the cave and reached the top of a cliff. But it was very difficult to get out from here, because their feet were slipping on the cliff. Freya tried to descend, but her foot slipped, and at the last moment, Canaan caught her hand and saved her. Just then, the Morwen suddenly arrived and launched a deadly attack on Wulfric. Then the Morwen picked up Wulfric and threw him towards Canaan and went back into the cave. Canaan took his sword and went after it, and he cut off the Morwen's leg. It saw its own blood flowing, and then we see that the Morwen was about to pounce on Canaan from behind, when at the last moment, Freya attacked the Morwen from behind, and Canaan turned at that moment and attacked the Morwen continuously. But the Morwen dragged him to the top of the cliff, while Freya was holding onto it from behind. Canaan raised his sword and with a final blow cut off the Morwen's hand, causing it to fall into the deep chasm. After this, they both went to Wulfric, who was badly injured. He asked if the Morwen was dead, to which Freya and Canaan nodded. Now Wulfric was very proud of Canaan's bravery. Finally, as he was dying, Wulfric gave his locket to Canaan, which meant that after Wulfric, Canaan would be the next king. After this, they gave the good news of the Morwen's demise to all the villagers, and then Canaan kissed Freya. By marrying Freya, Canaan became the new king of the village and adopted Eric. With his new family on Earth, Canaan now stayed here forever.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.